And of course, as God closes one door, he shuts another. And we've come to the end of Crossroads. We'll be marking this with a visit from its oldest inhabitant. That's Jane Rossington, who plays Jill Chance. She's had several changes of name. She'll be able to tell us the ending, so there'll be no need for you to watch it. Well, it's good to see. After 23 years, you must be sorry it's come to an end.
Oh, yes.
The performers are always the last to hear. I mean, sometimes you read it in the paper that you're axed. Well, how did you hear about it?
Well, I have read it several times in the paper before it actually happened, that it was coming on, or that I was leaving or something like that. But when it actually happened, I believed it, because I'd gone home, I finished early and gone home and done some shopping, and the phone went, and it was William, and he said, "Are you sitting down?" Which I thought was rather an odd thing to say. And I said, "Why should I be?" And he said, "Yes, I think it might be a good idea." And in a way, you know, it wasn't a surprise. I sort of thought, oh, well, it's over. It's sort of now that I've gone through 9 months since then, you start to think it's really rather sad.
Well, that was William Smethurst, who's known as Bill the Butcher.
Bill the Butcher, that's
because
right.
He got rid of most of the cast when he took over. But, I mean, he's also perhaps unfairly been blamed for its actual demise. But it gets about 12 million viewers, doesn't it?
And I don't think he's to blame for our demise.
Yeah.
I think I can lay that firmly at your door.
I never said anything.
You used to promote us on your radio show. I used to tune in on the way to work, and they'd be saying, "Oh, silly Jill, what's she going to do now?" And then when you moved to television, you abandoned us, you see, and when you went, well, that was it.
Well, they insisted I spoke about EastEnders, you see. Probably be the kiss of death for that, yeah. So Crossroads, for me, was always the kind of archetypal soap opera, because it had everything that a soap opera should have, sort of moving scenery, people walking out, looking for their camera, forgetting their lines, all that kind of... I mean, that's meat and drink, that's what a soap opera should be.
Well, it was a bit like doing sort of weekly rep on television.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was almost live. We weren't live, actually. Everybody said, "Were you live?" But we weren't. But we used to start at the top at 7 o'clock, and we had till 7:45. Well, if we didn't start for 10 minutes, you'd think, well, gosh, the show runs for nearly half an hour. That gives us 5 minutes to spare. So if you made a terrible mess of the first scene, that was OK, you could go back. But if you made a terrible mess of the last scene, tough. That went out.
You couldn't do anything about it. There was no room for editing or anything. You just had to learn your lines. It was like doing live theatre.
Yes, and you had to run from set to set and get change and pick up, you know. Say you had a tray of coffee or something, you'd pick it up, and suddenly open the door, in you'd go, and you think, did I remember to button up my skirt?
Yeah.
You know.
It's like Victoria Wood. Actually, Acorn...
In the early days, it was
Acorn
like...
Antiques. Yes, it was like that.
It got better, I think.
Yes, of course it got better. And as I say, it's still popular. So why take it off?
I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe just 23 years sounds like a long time. I thought we were going to make it to 25, but we haven't.
Was there a lot of... Well, as I say, you had 9 months to get used to it. It was axed once before, around about 1969, when one of the ITV regions wouldn't take it. Thames Television said they wouldn't take it.
Yes.
And Mrs. Wilson, the Prime Minister's wife, insisted that it be put back in the London region.
Well, you see, they made a terrible error. They just said, Thames said, "We're not having it on anymore. Right, enough. And they axed it the night before the wedding. And, you know, we have a lot of weddings, and you build up to the wedding. So it was the wedding of Sue Nichols and Neville Hughes, who played Marilyn, and the vicar. And the night, we'd done all the preparation, all the bridesmaids' dresses, and the trying on the wedding dress, and all that sort of thing. Didn't see it. Then there was a strike, which went on for about 3 or 4 months, and all the management were in answering the phones. And of course, they got all these abusive phone calls. "We want to see the wedding."
Yeah.
You know. So after sort of 6 months, when Mrs. Wilson had stepped in and said she'd quite like it back, they said, "Right, well, we'll put it back." And then when the viewers got to hear, they said, "OK, we want to see the wedding." So we picked up 6 months behind. So...
You never know, Mrs. Thatcher may phone up and say she wants it back. I mean...
Well, I think if Mrs. T says she wants it back,
it'll be back, yes. Now, in fact, it's just ended.
Has it?
Yeah.
Ooh, the last
we missed it, I'm afraid. Thank goodness. No. No. Well, I hope you missed it. Hope you were watching this. But what actually happened?
Gosh, well, wait a minute. We did this all just before Christmas, and it's a long time ago. And I haven't seen it all yet to see all the other films.
Did it have a happy ending?
Well, for me, it was a sort of happy ending. I sort of vanish off into the west, you know.
Well, so you should. So it's a happy ending for you.
Yes.
The motel doesn't get burned to the ground? No.
Nothing
Did
like
that happen once before anyway?
Oh, yes, we've done that.
Nobody got married, nobody died?
I think there was a proposal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bill the Butcher wasn't dragged across the screen and skewered? No. But now, in the time that it's been running, what did we say? 4,000 performances, something like that.
4,500 performances, yes.
More than 4,000 actors have appeared on it in that time.
Yes.
And some very well-known, very famous faces have appeared. Perhaps they don't like talking about the fact
One or
that
two don't seem very keen
Who's
to be
been on it
reminded.
now? Refresh my memory.
Well, let me think. Recently, well, of course, Terry Rigby's been in very recently, ex-Ed Carson, now with the National Theatre. He was lovely. We called him Cuddles, you know.
Big chap.
Big chap. And then, going back a bit, we've had Larry Grayson, lovely Larry, who's outrageous. I mean,
never.
You don't need to learn lines when Larry's around. You change everything.
Yeah.
And Ken Dodd we've had, and
David Jason.
David Jason. Yes, I think he's one that doesn't like to be reminded.
Doesn't he?
Lane
Oh, well, we
Page.
reminded me. You were on Crossroads, David. But Malcolm McDowell was on it, the Clockwork Orange Man.
I wasn't there when he was there, because in the early days I used to come and go a lot more. And it was a mere 16 years ago when I got married to a chap in the Midlands that I said, right, I'll throw in my lot with Crossroads. It's bound to finish in the next sort of year or so.
Yeah.
And that was 16 years ago.
And you brought up a family through all this.
Yes. It's amazing how I found the time, really, isn't it?
What are you going to do now that it's finished? Have you thought about it?
Well, I thought I was going to have a sort of quiet time, but I seem to have been rushing around all over the place. Because I've written a book, you know.
Yeah.
Been
I've seen
away
it.
at that.
I've seen it, yes.
Seen that. So I've been rushing around doing lots of literary luncheons and
Very nice.
being frightfully grand. I like being an author. It's very nice being an author.
Was there a marvellous spirit? There must have been on the set, but among all that confusion and panic.
Oh, yes.
People like Noel Gordon and what was the name of the chap who used to be in the wheelchair?
Oh, Sandy.
Do you remember
Roger.
Sandy?
Oh, lovely Sandy.
Of course you do.
Yes.
But unfortunately, that was Roger Tongue.
Yes.
He passed away.
Yes. The thing was, because it was a bit like being in a theatre show together, we needed one another. We needed to rely on one another. I mean, it was great if you were in a scene with just two people, because it was obvious if they stopped talking, it had got to be you. But when you were in a scene with more people, we'd all look at one another with a sort of...
Oh, we noticed. We noticed,
yes.
Yeah.
But you build up a wonderful sort of company spirit, because you help people out, they help you out, and you come off and you think, oh, thank you for that. Thank you. You know.
I was talking to Jason and Charlene saying that Neighbours, for instance, could have been shot in Birmingham. Could be shot anywhere, because, I mean, there's nothing reflective of Australia about it, really, except apart from the people talking with Australian accents. I mean, in fact, Crossroads was the father, or at least the begetter, perhaps, of Neighbours.
Well, we share Reg Watson, of course.
A chap called Reg Watson who used to do
Who
Crossroads.
started off Crossroads, and that was the idea, originally, when we started. 5 episodes a week, going out every night. So that we came on sort of early, we were friends, we were a nice, jolly bunch. Nothing too dreadful happened in the early days. We didn't... I mean, bear in mind, you couldn't show a dead body in those days. This is prior to the Vietnam War and all that. That changed everything. You could not show a dead body before about 9 o'clock at night. So if we murdered somebody, you couldn't see who it was.
We're showing dead bodies on this show all the time. At about 7 o'clock. So, I mean, he went from Birmingham, from ATV, and he went to Australia, and he fathered Neighbours.
Well,
That's
he
why
started
I
quite a
think
few
there
others
is
as well.
there is a kind of similarity in the
yes.
sets and the situations too.
And I think, too, the people, because he just looked for sort of fairly... people you could make contact with, you could identify with.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a very definite family, or we had a very definite family. Neighbours is perhaps based around a street, but you've got lots of families that you could identify with. And they're all sort of quite nice, friendly people.
Didn't you have a long pregnancy? Do you remember your long pregnancy?
Oh, yes. Well, I had a slight error, yes. I got pregnant, and Reg was still there, and I told Reg, and he said, can we write it in? And I said, oh, well, yes, that'll be fine. And actually, it was a bit sad, because I promptly lost it. But Reg, being older and wiser, he didn't sort of rush to alter the storyline. He said, oh, well, we'll see. And sure enough, well, little Sorrel came on the scene, but we didn't make it too specific. you see. So we never said exactly when this baby was due, so we just extended it a little. Instead of being early summer, it was late summer. So in fact, I was pregnant for 11 months.
Well, it's going to be hard to do without you. And thank you for joining us, Jane.
Thank you.
Jill Rossington.
It is going to be hard to imagine life without Crossroads.